My name is Chris Hülsbeck. I'm a video game composer and I work in the industry for over 20 years. I've done over 80 software titles.
My name's Alistair Brimble. I write the music and sound effects for computer games. I'm probably most well known for the soundtrack for Alien Breed on the Commodore Amiga.
My name is Reinoud and I'm a record producer. And I have my own studio and I pretty much involved in music in general
I started back in the early 90s and continue to work on computer games to this current day on modern systems such as the Game Boy DS and Game Boy Advance.
My name is Andreas Wallström. I work at IBM as a graphic designer and I have a deep interest in Commodore 64s.
Well, originally we met at the computer science department at Copenhagen University, where we started a demo group called Hyper's Nemesis.
Well, it's fairly obvious. We were searching for different names and it was obvious that it should be something related to the C64, and it just seemed so obvious to use the very text that it writes when you start loading a new game.
Press play on tape!
All of us men who are mid-30s, well maybe late 30s, grew up with this home computer, this massively popular home computer that was in everybody's homes. And
well, the story started back in 1984 when my father brought the C64 home.
It was the first really massively produced, massively sold home computer. And
actually still, until date, the best-selling
single
model computer ever produced.
Well, basically my whole childhood with computers, because I've always enjoyed the other computers as well, the Sinclair Spectrums and Atari STs actually, even though this will probably be edited. But
the first thing he said when he brought it home was that you can only use it during the weekends. And that worked out for maybe 2-3 months or something, but you know, I went home from school earlier so I could play with my friends, and it went from weekends to whole weeks.
Ich hatte natürlich mit dem C64 meine ersten Kontakte mit computergenerierter Musik, mit dem SID-Chip.
I read about the Commodore 64 and that it had like a real synthesizer sound chip built in, and I was fascinated by that. And
for starters, I just love the SID sound.
I had some money saved, but it was not quite enough, but my grandma was giving me the last bit so I could buy the Commodore 64.
Die SIDs zeichnen sich in meinen Augen vor allem durch die Stärke aus, dass sie eine Melodie haben.
Das waren wirklich auch tatsächlich die Spiele, die die geilste Musik haben. Ich habe eigentlich ein ziemlich beknacktes Spiel, Last V8.
Man ist doch mit 3 Stimmen und dem Effektkanal doch recht begrenzt, was irgendwie aufwendige Flächen, die im Hintergrund wabern, angehen oder irgendwelche fantastischen Soundeffekte, die da von links nach rechts schwirren, sondern man muss Musik auf das Wesentliche, auf das Essentielle begrenzen.
Habe ich bis zum Erbrechen gespielt. Ich bin in der Schule für verrückt erklärt worden, als ihnen gesagt, ich habe das durchgespielt, weil das als ungeheuer schwer galt, weil diese Scheißkiste überhaupt nicht zu steuern war. Ich habe das gemacht, weil ich wollte einfach immer nur diese Musik hören.
I know that my sister, for instance, she just hates it. She can't take a pulse wave modulation. It's just, well, oh, shut it off. But I just love the feeling of it. And especially with that kind of limited hardware, and you could get these great sounds out there, the great tracks, and I just love the basic of it. And with a limited amount of resources, create something so special and rememberable that it makes it possible to do great remixes out of it.
Und darin liegt auch ganz klar eine der großen Stärken, also für mich, persönlich in den Sits, weil sie eben auf das Wesentliche konzentriert sind, fantastische Melodien hervorbringen und mit den begrenzten Möglichkeiten des SID-Prozessors eben das Maximum herausholen.
Because of the limitation, people get creative. And because of that creativeness, a lot of people, a lot of things became their own thing. And at least the arpeggios, you had only one voice. So how am I going to do a 3-voice chord in one voice? Well, you just like, you just do those 3 notes, but really quick, like, and those became like the signature of SID.
Natürlich gab es nicht nur einen.
Also die Sachen, die Chris Hülsbeck geschrieben hat, das sind so Sachen, wo es manchmal wirklich, also da konnte ich das Spiel kaufen, wenn ich wusste, dass die Musik von ihm ist.
During my time, when I was really very active there were really only a handful.
Um ehrlich zu sein, in den wirklichen Anfängen war ich, glaube ich, eher der Martin Galway-Fanatiker.
Well, I think I can speak for the whole band when I say that our favorite composer is Mr. Rob Hubbard.
My favorite would have to be Rob Hubbard.
Also zuerst kam Rob Hubbard und dann kam ganz lange nichts. Dann kam Martin Galway, dann kam nochmal lange nichts und dann die anderen.
The SID composers, they have some really great melodies in their songs. Because you don't have lyrics in C64 music, so they write a melody instead of the vocal harmonies.
Und es war jedes Mal wieder also faszinierend, als wäre die Musik direkt für mich geschrieben worden. Das war eigentlich das Gefühl dabei.
Ich habe Rob Hubbard natürlich auch geliebt, aber erst wesentlich später zu schätzen gewusst, so ungefähr um 86, 87.
Ich glaube, dass er derjenige war, der am meisten entfernt war von dem, was man als typischer Computermusik zu der Zeit halt so angesehen hat. So ein bisschen Gedudel, ein bisschen Sinustöne, die vielleicht noch irgendwie schräg hin und her hüpften.
They were very creative, very inventive geniuses.
Sondern er hat halt nicht nur komponiert, sondern das Ganze auch in einer genialen Weise arrangiert. Mit Instrumenten und natürlich technischen Spezialeffekten, für die man gut programmieren können musste, die einfach, was ihn einfach total hat abheben lassen von den anderen.
A little bit later, there were like the younger generation heroes like Jero and Tell.
Als dann meine nächsten Heroes auf der Bildfläche erschienen, nämlich Maniacs of Noise und Jörn Tell war in der Zeit von 87 bis 89, 90 ein Gott.
So a lot of tunes have really strong melodies and that's what I like. And I like happy tunes the most.
And in the beginning I was only playing video games with it, but after about a year I got interested in maybe creating my own games.
The story behind Maniacs of Noise is that they kind of already, before I joined, they already existed.
My game designing skills were not that great. I had a friend who was much better at that.
You had like Charles Dane and June Tell, I think they founded the whole thing, and they were really into making music for games. Charles was a really he was a good business guy, he was really eager and with context,
But he wasn't really good with the music part, and he heard what I was doing, and so I got my first little job there. So I made music for one of his games that was also sold, and that was basically my first video game music.
And at some point they really got so much work, they also called Johannes Biergaard, my hero. And then they got even more work, and they also called me to do some things, but I think I only did like 3 or 4, no maybe more, but 3 or 4 games for them.
That game was called Planet of War.
If I ever blah blah blah, and it's also fun if your dreams also come true, and you're one of the maniacs of noise, which was really.
A remix is something you want to do a different view apart from the original point of view, but still pay a tribute to the original track. Either it's a Commodore 64 track or an Amiga track, but still you want to do something with it and just express it how you want it to sound.
When people were starting to create remixes, we, as a group, tended to hear Commodore 64 music more in terms of rock. This is a guitar, these are the drums, and it's this is sort of like a heavy vein.
Jeder Remixer hört diesen Originalsong doch irgendwie anders und setzt ihn dementsprechend anders um. Und das ist das Faszinierende. Es gibt eine Vorlage und 1000 verschiedene Varianten davon.
They are the same composition, they're the same tune. So you can't exactly say better. But one way you can improve is by changing the instruments to make them much more modern and up to date. And in that way, I'd say, yeah, in sound quality, you can get a lot better.
There are a lot of good remixes out there, a lot of good remixers out there as well, both on the Commodore 64 and the Amiga side. The Commodore 64 side is a bit bigger because it's easier to make a difference with the tunes, because they are more. The tracks on the C64 were more based on the music itself.
I think it's really great, the enthusiasm that's still there for the old music. I mean, to me, it just shows me how good that Commodore music was. Even though it's simple, it's still brilliant music.
I really think that the tunes come alive when we play them on real instruments.
This is I'm old-fashioned. I use notes, not a sit to MIDI.
Der Ablauf für einen Remix sieht bei mir in der Regel erstmal so aus, dass ich das originale SID analysiere. Was ist drin, was man braucht und was ist Ballast?
Also wenn ich ein Stück habe, wo ich mich entschieden habe, so das mache ich jetzt, spiele ich es mir einfach mal so wirklich audiomäßig im Computer, dass ich es so liegen habe, und dann wird erstmal analysiert. Also ich muss eigentlich auch mir muss vorher schon klar sein, was für einen Style das haben soll.
Ich zum Beispiel höre sie mir dann wirklich eine Woche auf der Autofahrt ständig jeden Tag zur Arbeit hin an, halbe Stunde hin, halbe Stunde zurück.
This is from Samurai Trilogy.
Der nächste Step ist dann die Sachen nachspielen, die wichtig sind.
It's really difficult. Also,
ich fange nicht an und gucke, was passiert, sondern ich habe ein ganz konkretes Ziel und gucke, dass ich das erreiche.
Aber man sieht auch hier, das ist tatsächlich meine Arbeitsweise. Ich habe das ganz strikt aufgeteilt, mir sogar oben drüber geschrieben, welcher Part ist das. Und bei mir läuft das SID immer synchron zum eigentlichen Remix, damit ich auch immer vergleichen kann.
Und ich gehe eigentlich da wirklich sehr analytisch vor und fange an, zum Beispiel das Schlagzeug, wenn es Schlagzeug gibt, von vorne bis hinten durchzuprogrammieren, dass der Track vom Schlagzeugding her steht. Weil, ich weiß nicht, ich habe immer das Gefühl, ich brauche einfach das Raster, auf dem ich arbeiten kann.
I would like to imagine how the original composer would have done it now. Of course, I like to give it my own twist, but I kind of imagine how if that guy had real instrument, how would it have sound? You know, what is really the essence of that song?
Also wenn ich eigene Stücke mache, kann das ganz anders, kann das viel spontaner, kann das viel chaotischer auch ablaufen. Aber bei den Remixen habe ich das Gefühl, ich muss immer alles unter Kontrolle haben.
I just record those 3 tracks, and I just put them in the computer. I make like this grid of thing, and I just go one by one. I kind of delete what is from the original. So most of the time I start with the drum track, like there's a drum track in the SID thing on channel 1, and I slam the drum track or I do whatever.
Und ich versuche auch, was man, wenn man meine Remixe kennt, wahrscheinlich auch merkt, immer so dicht wie möglich am Original zu bleiben und auch jegliche Instrumente, die im Original vorkommen, mit Realinstrumenten dann auch umzusetzen.
What I like is when the original composers mail me and say, yeah, you did a great job. This is exactly how I had it in my head when I made it, but I didn't have the tools to make it because I only had these 3 bleepy bloppy tracks, and this is all I could do with it, you know. And
normal version, like the SID. Blippy bloppy blippy blop. Kind of rid of the original classic.
Was mir an der Community gefällt, ist, dass so viele Leute was beitragen in irgendeiner Form.
I'm Kenneth Mutka and I'm called Slaygun. I run something called Slay Radio.
Welcome to Slay Radio. Slay Radio. This evening, live from...
Yeah, I remember when me and Slaygun worked together, because Slay Radio started as a way for Slaygun to listen to the remixes wherever he was.
Wenn man sich mit sowas auseinandersetzt, mit so einem Nischenthema wie Computerspiele-Soundtracks, dann hat man ja manchmal schon das Gefühl, man sei der Einzige auf der Welt, den das interessiert.
Basically, he was just running a player on his workstation at work and streaming it out so that if he was somewhere else, he could listen to it. And as time went by, more and more people started to listen to it.
Ich meine, das ist auch was Tolles am Internet an sich, dass man eben feststellt, dass so Interessengruppen einfach zusammenfinden, die über ganz Europa oder noch darüber hinaus eigentlich über die ganze Welt verstreut sind. Und auch wenn es eigentlich recht kleine Nischen sind, die Leute doch zueinander finden.
Das ist was Besonderes. Es ist wirklich eine besondere Community und ich kenne eigentlich nichts Vergleichbares.
Ich finde das sehr, sehr cool, sehr wichtig, dass es so eine Community gibt. Denn ansonsten würde die C64-Musik, die SID-Musik ja irgendwo verloren, vergessen gehen. Und durch die Community bleibt das Ganze eben am Leben.
And so he found himself in the position where him listening to it was actually a very, very small part. And suddenly 30 other people were listening to his stream. And we started having bandwidth problems at work because everybody was listening to the stream, so we couldn't work.
Da gibt es dann Leute, die machen diese Internet-Radio-Shows über Slay Radio. Und ich meine, da findet ja jetzt mehr oder weniger jeden zweiten oder jeden dritten Tag so eine Show statt.
We all the time, we interact with the listeners, so we get to know them during chat-wise and also during our small gatherings, which we have the last 3 years it is now.
3 years, yeah.
3 years, and I mean, this year was about 80 people attending from all over Europe, actually.
I kind of just discovered it, so it's hard to say, but I think it was already there since, 2000 or what is it, 98. And then I just made I was also just busy with my normal life, so I just made the remixes just it was for fun, but I didn't really bother, really dive into this community.
We found that when we play concerts, people they join before the concerts and they meet and they have dinners and they talk about old times when
they dress up.
They dress up. Yeah, they talk about old times when they did demos or they cracked games or whatever they did, and then they come to our concerts and then they meet the other people from the other groups, other demo groups and whatever, and in that way our music serves as a networking purpose.
Now where I'm there, it's really fun. And it also surprises me kind of what is going on there. Like, what the fuck? Get a life. 30, like you're 35. You have this shitty computer from 20 years. Get a life. Move on. But no, I think everybody's just like. I think what happened there is that this nostalgia is almost not even important anymore. But it's more about the whole community itself.
Here's your host, Andreas Wallström. I'm Slaygun. Hard rock.
This is The Fleming Show. My name is Andy, and this is Rain.
The show is influenced by what people say during the show, which makes it a completely different interactive media compared to, say, normal FM radio. you have a whole layer of interactivity on top of the usual radio banter.
Getting together, drinking beer, talking about the Commodore 64, drinking more beer, and talking more about the C64, and that's it.
Really, it's not primarily about music.
No.
It is a lot about music, but it's almost as much about the people and having fun together.
It's good and it's unique and it is extremely uncommercial, so it is almost art.
What do you mean by almost? Ich finde es schön, dass es sowas gibt, dass die ganzen SID-Remixe kostenlos zum Download angeboten werden. Das ist eine ganz, ganz fantastische Art und Weise, eben in der Szene nicht im Hintergrund zu versacken, sondern zu sagen, hey, wir leben, der C64 lebt, damals die Musik war so klasse, dass wir sie heute noch hören wollen. Wir geben ihm nur ein bisschen mehr Pep mit und hört's euch an.
We met many times now and we're getting personal friends. I mean, we talk on IRC, on Skype and MSN and stuff, but meeting up is the best part. I would say all of us, or most of us that's here, we're geeks. We love the Commodore 64 and we love to talk about it, but I would say that we're social geeks.
Well, I actually started back on the Sinclair Spectrum, believe it or not, and I was from a musical family and did piano lessons, that sort of thing. So the first thing I wanted to do was program in my piano pieces.
Big part of what we play now for me is no longer we play this because I played the game as a kid, but simply it's a tune we found in the SID collection and well, that sounded cool, let's play it.
So, unfortunately the Spectrum could only play one note at a time. So I upgraded to a Spectrum 128. I can now play 3 notes at once. So I managed to program in my piano pieces, which was great.
Maybe one thing that really changed my mind that I and it's even more now that I don't compose really. I don't let my fingers do the composing, sit behind piano, just put chords in after the other, or play melody, like combination, blah blah blah.
I had a very musical family. We had like several piano teachers in the family, and we always had like music instruments around. So I started from early childhood to really play around with music instruments.
I got bored with that soon. It's a very simple sound. I moved on to a Commodore 64, which really inspired me into writing game music.
At some point, things are like already in you're like the head takes over instead of your fingers, because playing the piano is just finger repetition. It's like just it's like a monkey that does like boom, 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 boom.
To create a piece of music, you actually needed a whole sound studio. I mean, we're talking £20,000 worth of equipment, or to be able to play a musical instrument such as a piano or a guitar.
I think the Last Ninja 3 intro track, that was really like that was not like something that was composed on the piano. It was really like in the mic, because it's so simple. And those kind of moments where when your head takes over your fingers, that was a really special moment in my life. That
Musik funktioniert ja auch nur nach irgendwelchen Regeln, mathematisch oder Gesetzmäßigkeiten. Und wenn man die kennt, dann kann man irgendwas zusammenfügen.
However, when Commodore and Amiga came along, all you needed was your Commodore and your Amiga and a piece of software. And with that, you could be as creative as you wanted.
For me, it's no longer nostalgia. Like, it was nostalgia the first year or two, and we played all my favorite songs. It was great, and it was just so fun bringing them alive. And right now, it's just the fun of playing music. It's really lovely to play music.
And it inspired some composers to write music who would never have written music before. And even actually some people I work with today, they learn that way, and they don't understand a note of written musical notation at all.
Aber damit sozusagen emotional auch was aussagt, muss man, glaube ich, selber auch eine Botschaft haben, die man da hineinlegen will. Insofern habe ich persönlich ich glaube, dass ich die beste Musik geschrieben habe, als es mir in meinem Leben nicht so gut ging, weil dann hatte man irgendwie eher das Bedürfnis, was ausdrücken zu müssen, was man vielleicht mit Worten nicht sagen konnte.
It's like a saxophone player, like jazz. When you play jazz, you can just see, okay, G minor, and you just play the scale of G minor, or like this kind of inversion or combination, or whatever, and then D minor, blah blah blah.
On the Amiga and Commodore 64, as you know, you can only play a few notes at once. It was 3 notes and 4 notes, and I had to learn to write music back then in a very simple way.
It doesn't really say anything, but if your head is in front of your fingers, then music starts. You know, then you're going to tell stories.
And then it came on to the PlayStation, and suddenly I had to learn how to write music all over again, because suddenly we're talking about CD music where anything is possible. I have no limitations, and it really threw me for a year or two until I got into it.
Like with phrasing, if you can sing it in your head or sing it maybe out loud, just hum it, then music suddenly gets alive, because you know there's a human touch in it. There's a, you know, the phrasing, and it's like.
Current day, it's actually come full circle, and now on the Game Boy and Game Boy Advance, I'm having to write music in exactly the same way again as on the Amiga, and now there's hardly anybody else who can do it. So this means I get lots of work on Nintendo DS and Game Boy.
Well, for one, I mean, it was the home computer of that time. There was nothing else really.
Commodore for me is a sign of success.
For me, it was a moment of creativity and aggregation between people from the same country, the same city, but also from other countries, if not worldwide.
The synonym in that sense would be friends, I guess. Good friendship.
Innovation. Also damals mit dem C64 angefangen, gigantische Farbpracht, fantastischer Sound, allein der SID ist unverkennbar.
For me, the Commodore is basically also, like Andrei says, synonymous with that generation of machines.
Irgendwie, natürlich, wenn man den Begriff Commodore hört, ist der C64 eigentlich das, was einem einfällt. Business-wise würde ich sagen, ist der Begriff Commodore das beste Beispiel für Missmanagement.
I also didn't have a Commodore, I had an Armstrong. And well, it was great fun, nobody else had it, so I was kind of alone with it.
Commodore für mich ist eine Kindheitserinnerung einfach.
Well, for me, Commodore 64 music is a childhood memory because I was so young. But when it got onto the Amiga, that started to get a lot more serious, and this is where I started to learn to do my job.
It's just that with Ben Daglish, I remember playing Crack Out back in 1990 or something.
I see it around me that people still remember like the music from when they were a teenager. Now I think that starts the most.
So for me, you know, that is still current day for me, and I still write music now in the same way as I did on the Amiga.
The whole generation now has the same thing, maybe with the Nintendo NES or something. You know, they get smiles on their face, like hey.
And I was playing it over and over again. I really loved the music, and I said, it doesn't matter who this guy is. I didn't know him then.
Also eine Geschichte, die möglicherweise viele die in dieser Szene aktiv sind, auch so wiedergeben könnten, dass man sich dann mit dem Mikro davor gesetzt hat und hat das Zeug auf Kassette aufgenommen und so weiter. Und da wurde man schon von den Klasskameraden ein bisschen merkwürdig angeschaut.
It doesn't matter who he is, he's my favorite composer because of that track. And I ripped the music out of the game, just listened to it myself when doing homework and stuff.
It's definitely a bit of nostalgic feeling that comes up when I listen to this stuff, but I don't know, it's just an era of my life.
It's because his tracks are jolly and nice, and they are crazy just like Ben Daglish himself.
We don't want to be the guys that stand there in the corner and look like everything hurts and like have pain and are very artsy-fartsy. We actually just want to have fun and entertain. And if people think that sometimes we should be a little bit more serious, we're taking everything too lightly. It's just like it's fun. It's just fun.
Just in the early 90s, when at work one day, actually one week at work, I had a a colleague he wanted to be more into it, because I was sort of a local celebrity in Eskilstuna, which is my hometown, because people knew my music.
But the whole System 3 thing started with Flimba's Quest, I think.
We have actually been playing for a non-computer type audience, and there you commented on the picture on the website of me where I had the tie and nerdy look.
Yeah.
So to underline that, we all had nerdy geeky clothes on and bicycle helmets and white socks and sandals and all that stuff.
Johannes Biergarten made the score for the music for Flimba's Quest, but there was his title music missing, or loader music missing.
And I had been making some stuff for fair and stuff like that, some music, some winter music actually, Christmas stuff. And all of a sudden, Olof Gustafsson from Digital Illusions called, because I had sent them a postcard saying, hey, if you need any conversions to Super Nintendo and stuff, I can help you out with that.
We figured it was our only concert where we actually played for an audience that had more women than men in it. Actually, women is girls, teenage, screaming teenage panties, basically.
And I made those two Flimba's Quest tunes. And I think they kind of liked it at System 3, so I think they kind of asked me not much later to do music for Lost Ninja Remix.
So, and they wanted a conversion for their Benefactor game to the Super Nintendo. So he called me up, and my colleague, who wanted to know more than I did about it all, he answered, well, there's someone saying that he's calling from Digital Illusions, and they were huge at that time. Like, is this true? And then, yeah, of course it was Olof.
It's a very popular Danish
and
game.
so we figured, now's our chance to really hit it with the girls, so we dressed up as complete geeks.
Girls like that.
Yeah.
Rock and roll.
I think I was only 16 or 17, and you go by plane to have a business meeting in London. Yeah, it's really it's for a 16, 17 years old. It's just like one big experience. Missing your airplane, etc.
And then a week later, I had been discussing quite a bit with Chris Hulsbeck, actually. So I had called him at his office when he worked at Kaiko Software here in Germany, and he couldn't take the call, so he returned the call. And just the afternoon there, that guy at work, my colleague, he answered the phone again, and Chris said, "Hello, this is Chris Hulsbeck from Kaiko Software in Germany. May I speak with John, please?" He couldn't even get a word. He's just... And then after that, he didn't bother me anymore about trying to outdo me.
Well, and it's not a message, but I just hope that like when I see this DVD again in what is 10 years, that I hope I'm still as eager as I am now. Just like, very focused and very eager, really.
Oh my God, you still had hair.
Ich würde mir wünschen, dass ich zurückschauen kann und mich daran erinnern kann, was das für eine spaßige Zeit war und dass man selber irgendwie da Bestandteil von irgendwas Größerem war an der Stelle.
Gut, man wird ja im Leben immer erfahrener und älter und sieht auch Dinge anders, die man vor 15 Jahren anders gesehen hat, und dieses wiederholt sich zyklisch, und deswegen würde ich mir auf den Weg geben, dass ich das Leben noch genießen sollte. Wer weiß, wie lange es dauert.
The message would be, I hope that I'm still into C64 related stuff. And if I still haven't become a rock star, maybe it's time to move on.
Schau mal zurück. Ich finde es ganz wichtig, dass man nicht nur im Jetzt lebt und immer nur nach vorne guckt, sondern auch guckt, was liegt denn eigentlich hinter mir? Was habe ich denn geschafft? Wie war denn die Zeit damals und was haben wir damals alles getan? Das finde ich ganz wichtig. Und sich so ein bisschen an seine Wurzeln zurückerinnern, das ist also eines der wesentlichen Dinge, die man immer tun sollte, wenn man den Augenblick sieht.
Der C64 war insofern auch ein Gerät, was einem eine Möglichkeit gab, ohne bestimmte Regeln wirklich aufzustellen. Er hatte zwar ein Limit, das konnte man aber mit Geschick umgehen. Und Von daher war er also schon wirklich sehr wichtig in meinem musikalischen Leben.
For me personally, because without the Commodore, both the Commodore 64 and the Amiga, I wouldn't be able to do my job today. I learned everything I know from Commodore computers.
Back then I loved it. That was I looked up to them. Commodore, that was the thing of the day.
Ich betreibe ein eigenes Studio, ich mache zwar Werbung nur, aber es ist irgendwie schon verwandt noch das Thema. Insofern hat das schon einen sehr großen Einfluss auf mein Leben tatsächlich gehabt.
Stimmt. Ja, habe ich schon ganz vergessen. Vielen Dank fürs Erinnern.
On C64.com we talk every day, and we more or less think that we're going to continue with the site until we die, more or less.